Welcome to Podheim, Jiroc's Valheim podcast. Let's give him the business.
Hey everybody, this week we've got something a little different for you. We interviewed JSMARS, yes, Jonathan over at Iron Gate about Valheim. And because that interview went about 2 hours long, I'm going to share with you the first half of that interview today and then release the second half in the next few days. So let's go to that interview now. All right, everybody, we're here talking with Jonathan, one of the developers over at Iron Gate. It's so awesome to have you here with us, Jonathan.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's fun to be here.
Before we get into all the game stuff, which people are always interested in asking about, I like to know about the people themselves who are involved, just to kind of find out how you got to where you are. So if you feel like, I'd love to hear a little bit about you, maybe where you're from, how you ended up getting into game development. Did you go to school first, and then maybe some of the places that took you from school to before, and ended up at Iron Gate?
Sure. How detailed do you want it?
Well, maybe start from where you're from, and did you go to college specifically for gaming?
Sure. Yeah. So I'm from Sweden. I think we're all everybody at Iron Gate is living from Sweden, but we have a few people with some part heritages from here and there, but mostly Swedes. So yeah, I grew up in Sweden, in the countryside. At a quite young age, me and a friend found an old 3D program called Raydream Studio 5. I think that was the first exposure I had to that. So it's a really old 3D package, and we used that to make some model. I wouldn't even say models. We placed spheres and squares and made animations and stuff like that. And we had a lot of fun. After that, I moved over to 3D Studio Max. I don't think there was anything else in between, and really learned to make 3D models. Well, I shouldn't say really learned, but started learning. And then from there, I saw this. I was a subscriber to the old PC Gamer magazine, a Swedish version, which was awesome. And sadly, they actually shut down their physical paper a little while ago. But anyway, and I was a subscriber to that. I liked playing games already, and I saw this little picture of a mod for Unreal Tournament. I don't remember which one, and there was this car mod, Unwheel, it's called, like a baby version of Unreal, but with a wheel. And they had this picture there, and I just saw they're making a mod, and I just figured, well, I could make a model and send that to them. That maybe they want to put it in their game or something. So I did that. I was sick from school one day, so I made a truck, Caterpillar, big monster truck thing.
Oh, nice!
And sent it to them, and then they actually put it in they were like, yeah, sure, that sounds cool. They put it in the game, and actually, just I don't know how long afterwards, but actually it was featured in PC Gamer a few months later. So when they had a picture of the game again, they had a picture of my big truck. And for me, that was a really big moment. I mean, I was in 7th grade, I think.
Oh, wow.
So that felt really cool from my side.
What was the name of that game?
Unwheel.
Unwheel.
Like Unreal, but Unwheel with a wheel.
Yeah.
I think I'm sure you can find it online. It's just like an old driving mod. There was different racing modes, and it's sort of like a Rocket League, a very early version of Rocket League. Yeah, so that was pretty cool. And then I after that I got into a few other mods for Half-Life 2, I think mainly, where I helped out doing some models for different mods. The big one I was in was called Nuclear Dawn. It was kind of a very hyped, high quality mod at the time that sadly never got released. So but later it was bought up by some company that released it as a standalone game. They still have a large part of all our assets that we made for the mod, but they released it as their own game. And I don't know. I don't know. I might not have really done it justice. Didn't really credit us, which I think is really asshole move. Like typical gaming industry thing. Like I really like how the movie industry they really like to credit everybody. Like people who brought them food, drove the taxis, everything. Well, in the gaming industry, they're like, oh, the less names we put in the credits, the cooler we sound.
Oh,
So,
I was actually I wasn't aware of that.
I don't know. I mean, it's just a feeling that I have. Like in a lot of games, you see like, oh, there's 5 people in the credits, and then they're like, oh, actually, that's not true. If you really research, then it's like, oh, they had this subcontractor, and they're not even in the credits, or a whole other company that helped them out.
Yeah, it's in the movie industry. We definitely try to credit everyone, even the little assistants and people who are on internship and whatnot. With the production assistants, they call them PAs.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's what it doesn't cost anything to have people in the credits. It's just like I think it comes from some kind of a thing where you can make a game all by yourself, and I don't know, the feeling of it seems like a lot of games just have a few people in the credits just to make it sound like they did all the work or something. I don't know why. It's really a annoying cultural thing somehow.
And then no one is watching the credits.
Yeah, exactly. Nobody really cares anyway, so why not just put them in there? I mean, give them that. I mean, it's really nothing. I mean, later, now I'm jumping ahead a bit, but I worked at a contractor, like a 3D art contractor for a bunch of different games, and I was surprised when I joined there. They're like, "No, what personalized credits? We don't have. We could never ask for that." So like, if you look in a bunch of different games, at the end of it, it'll say like additional art by. Liquid Development was a company I worked for, and that's like, say, I don't know, maybe 10 or 15 artists working on a game that did like a large chunk of the main art in games. But if you look at the credits, it's like they have maybe 2 artists in-house artists that did their work, and then they hired us as contractors. But if you look at the credits, you think like, oh, there was 2 people who did all the art in this game. That's pretty amazing. Well. So yeah, that's kind of, I think it's kind of a sad part of the gaming industry, but hopefully it's getting better. I don't know.
Well, a lot of the gaming industry is not unionized. Is that correct?
Yeah, I would say that.
Because part of the credit requirements for the film industry come from there being so many unions involved. Of course,
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So they're actually required to give credits and in very specific ways. But then just because they're doing it anyways, they seem to have this tradition of crediting all the other companies that are involved. Like you'll see all the special effects artists credited and the companies and every individual right down to the assistant in the office who's answering the phones. And I think that tradition comes from the unions. But one of the sad things, too, about the movie industry is that the special effects artists are not unionized. And so they actually, are sometimes fighting for fair wages or, employment and benefits and all these things. They don't have all the protections that a lot of the other film industry have. So I'm guessing that the gaming, because it's kind of the same thing, the special effects artists in film, that some of those skills probably translate over to some of the special effects things that can be done in gaming. And it sounds like both are not unionized.
Yeah, sure. Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that. Yeah, I was thinking like, oh, the people in film industry are so cool. They just want to credit everybody, but I guess they're contractually bound to do so.
Yeah. At least, for the big important roles, and they just carry it over. Yeah.
Anyway, getting back to the let's see, where was I? I worked on these mods, and after that, after high school, I applied for, because I'd been working on mods and I had like sort of built up a portfolio. Like, and now we're talking 3D artist. I've been working as a 3D artist on mods. So after that, I applied for some different jobs. Just sent out to all the cool studios that I liked, and got an answer from a few actually. And I went on interview at DICE in Stockholm, who make Battlefield games, and also Grin, which make like a bunch of different games. They are sadly now bankrupt, but they got bankrupt a few years later. But I had some friends working there, So I got introduced at 2 places, and I accepted the job at DICE. So I worked there for a bit over a year, and that was really a good experience in a lot of ways. I got to meet a bunch of amazing people. It's a really cool place, but I also learned a lot about what I don't want to do.
Well, that's interesting. So I was going to ask you what you were doing at some of these companies, because it sounds like you do programming, but you also sounds like you're also a 3D graphic artist. So what were you doing at these companies, and what did you as you were going through working with other people, how did you figure out what you did and didn't want to do?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say working at a big company, we were 300 then. I think they were like something 800 now. I'm sure that's really good for a bunch of people, but I don't really like being in such a big company. You're sort of just like a cog. You have your one little area of work. You have tons of meetings. You don't really have any say, or you don't get a lot of creative input like at the end product. I mean, sure, I was just an artist on those games, but still, I mean, I really prefer working on a smaller team. But yeah, back then I was still just only like 100% 3D artists on games. But after DICE, I quit my job there, and I went over to. Then I started as a contract 3D artist. So I worked with Liquid Development, which is a 3D contractor that does for a bunch of different games. I worked on some different Gearbox games as an artist. At the same time, I actually took up, because this was sort of like early indie game days, like you saw like World of Goo and Braid these games releasing. So at sort of the same time, I was really getting into programming. I mean, I'd been programming for a few years ahead of that as well, but just like on a hobby level, doing little applications and like mini games and stuff like that. But so I got into programming a lot more. I started making my own games, small games, and I joined like Ludum Dare, which is a really big game jam event online. I can really recommend trying that out for anybody wanting to make games.
Oh, okay.
You basically spend 48 hours making a game over a weekend. You're supposed to make everything yourself during this time, like including sounds and graphics and everything. And I did that a bunch of times and made some small games. Yeah, and then after that, let's see. I need to think about this. Yeah.
Well, I wanted to
after that.
Well, real quickly,
so
you've talked about a lot of these little indie games and places that you worked at. You have a website, JSMARS.com, MARS. Yeah, I have that up now, and I can see a lot of these things that you were talking about. So if anybody was interested, I recommend going and checking out your website to see all those cool projects that you'd worked on.
Yeah, hopefully it's sort of complete. But yeah, there's like a mixture of AAA games and other indie games and game jam games there, along with some other stuff. Yeah. So let's see, where was I? After that, anyway, I actually, by that point, I sort of, I'd had some jobs in the industry. I worked as a contractor and everything, but I sort of wanted to have an education. I'd started working direct out of high school, so I didn't have a formal like the university education. So then I applied for a university degree and did that remotely most of the part. Actually, as I was still working. I mean, I'd gotten into working. When you start earning money and everything, it's kind of hard to just like stop doing that and jump all the way back to uni.
Yeah.
So I sort of did I worked 100% and I also was studying 100%, which might not have been the best idea, but.
So you were working and schooling.
Yeah.
That's never good.
No, that's probably not a great idea. But thankfully, the uni I went to, I did I was thinking I want to work with games, but I already have more, how do you say, experience and skills than I will get if I just do a game development university. I mean, sure, I'll learn some stuff. I'll do some cool projects, but if they start from the beginning, it's really kind of like it wouldn't be very. I wouldn't really challenge myself. I wouldn't really learn that much, I think. So I went for like more of an IT project management education, a little bit more business oriented or project management, I'd say, which I just felt like, yeah, that's a cool skill to have, be better at that side of things if I ever want to do something by myself, like in a smaller team or anything like that.
Right. So that's interesting. Have you ventured into any game or other project designs on your own or with a group that you formed yet? Or is that something you're still thinking about as maybe something in the future?
Yeah, I mean, both before that, during like when I do game jams, a lot of the time I did them all by myself, but several times I got some friends to join me and we sort of made a game together. And I don't want to like say, oh, I'm the one who led them in any way, but I was probably in several cases anyway the one with most experience. So in a lot of ways, I sort of led those projects. And after my education as well, like then I started my own contractor company where I also worked. I had some other odd jobs in between there, I guess. But I started my own contractor company where I made software engineering for well, basically anything. But I tried to do some game work. So I tried to like do contract work 50% to get money, and then I did like 50% my own projects because that's really what I wanted to do, like make my own games. Preferably with some friends or some other motivated people. Yeah, so I did that for a few years. I had some pretty cool projects that went pretty far, but besides the like game jam games, none of the bigger projects really didn't get to a point where we felt that we wanted to release them. So several of those were stuck in game development limbo.
Well, so that actually sounds similar to my experience in the film industry. You know, the film industry is super tough as well to get into, and you end up working if you don't move to LA or New York and start working, you know, from the bottom rung up, or have a wealthy relative who's wealthy or famous already. It's very hard to get into. So you end up doing some work to pay the bills and working on your side projects by yourself or with friends to hopefully get some exposure. And it was nice when YouTube really became a big thing. I'm old enough that I saw that evolution from nothing. So it gave us an outlet. But I did find that YouTube wasn't such a great outlet for filmmakers for the cinematic filmmaking stuff. It took me years to figure that out before I became just sort of like this YouTube content creator.
Yeah, that's too bad. I think Vimeo, or however you pronounce that. I mean, that's more, I'd say, that was my experience anyway, that Vimeo is like more for film clips and stuff like that. And YouTube was more for, YouTubing.
yeah. It's still, but you still end up having the problem, just like with any project, no matter what it is, and it's getting eyeballs on it, right? And I just want to take a quick break from the show to share with you one of my sponsors, the Grimfrost, an amazing company that sells really, really cool Viking products. They have over 1,000 different modern and historical Viking products. If you're interested, you should check them out. I have a link in the description, or you can go to my website, jiroctheviking.com/Grimfrost. Now back to the show.
Yeah, exactly. Of course. Yeah. I actually did I have done a bit of film stuff too. I have a friend who's really good at video editing and filming and everything. And we did a bunch of different sketches for different, like just minor stuff. But I think we had a lot of fun. We did some video work, and like, I'm sure there's like at least 10 million people in the same situation. But if you'd had even a slight idea of what YouTube would have become, and we would have like done that, put our stuff on YouTube and just kept doing it, you could have really have done a lot more there, I think.
Oh yeah. I wish, I mean, I've been a filmmaker for almost 25 years, and I wish I had sort of tuned in, paid more attention to what was going on YouTube, because up until 4 or 5 years ago, I mostly still pursued, writing screenplays and making projects to try to get exposure to, break into Hollywood, to, get a feature film funded, or a TV show pilot made or something. But yeah, it was only recently that I started seeing what people were doing on YouTube and how they were having success. And my love of video games probably distracted a lot from my career. But now finally I get to blend the two together. It's fun.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, it seems like you really found something that you like. So, I think that's sort of a problem for a lot of people. You sort of have this dream of you're trying to follow, like, for example, the Hollywood way, or in gaming, like, oh, you want to be the next Minecraft hit or something like that. And a lot of people try to follow in someone else's footsteps, but it's really hard to get there. But if you need to find your own way and sort of like find your own niche of things to do.
Yeah, which is interesting that Valheim found that a niche that was missing, in my opinion, because I became, after playing MMOs in just about every game you can imagine over the years, every type of game, I mean, I landed on survival games, and they seemed to be the best fit for me. And so I played various survival games, and just one day I typed into Google Viking survival just to see if there was, because I've always been a big fan of Viking stuff, and just found Valheim, signed up for the beta, and then the rest is history.
That sounds cool. Yeah. Actually, yeah, and I don't know, just to like finish the my long history of myself here. Then, sorry, it got really long. It's how I got into Iron Gate. Then, I mean, that was, I guess, the core question. I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, while doing these of my own, like working sort of as an indie projects and everything, I have made one project. If you are on my website, you can see that it's called Forest, and I'm not sure if I have a date there exactly when it was, but say it was around, I think it was like 2011. I was working on a game that was like open world survival craft game-ish. It has a lot of similarities to Valheim. I can definitely say that. Like it's definitely very along the lines of what Valheim became. I mean, Valheim, of course, is a complete and much better finished product. A lot more finished than that game ever was. But I was working on that game for a while, around 2011, 2012, before I sort of stopped because the other people who were helping me sort of quit, and then I was all by myself, and then the scope was too big to finish by myself. And at that point, I didn't feel like, I can't really contact publishers and do things like that. So I moved on to other things at the moment. But then when Valheim came out, a friend of mine, he sent the link to the game, and he was like, "Yeah, do you want to play this? If I send you a key?" Because he knows that I sort of don't play early access games, because I kind of think that early access is bad in 99 games out of 100.
Yes.
So I'd rather just wait for the full game.
Yeah, you're not wrong with that. You're not wrong with that. It's kind of a habit, can become a habit that developers are releasing early access, and then it's just an easy way to make money.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and they're really hurting their product. I think, like, some games it works really well. Like, I might not be fully objective here now, but I do think Valheim is one of the games that it works really well in, because it's more of an open-ended, a bit more sandbox experience, and there's a ton of content to play already, and you really know, like, this has a high quality, it's well polished, it works well, and when you reach a certain point, then it's like, okay, from here on there's going to be more content, which I think is a really good way of doing it. Whereas many other games are like half released, there's no tutorial, it feels glitchy. People play it, I mean, sure, it says early access, but people don't read that. They play it and review it as if it was the full game, basically.
Well, yeah, it seems like a lot of early access games, their basic mechanics and even the graphics and the look of the game are so in early development that it's not really ready to play for people who are paying money to access it. But Valheim, the game already felt refined. It went up to a certain point in content, and it stopped because the rest of the content still needs to be developed. But the basic gameplay, the look, the mechanics, all that was pretty well refined. And so if people do that with early access, I think that it's fine to go ahead and raise money for your game, because let's just be honest, it's, being an independent artist myself for 25 years, I know it's really difficult to raise money for independent projects. So if you can do that, if you can make a really refined project that's just a little bit of content, but really refined little bit of content with the promise of more, then maybe that's a better approach to go.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I know also like a lot of people are in the situation where either they have to stop working on the game or they release it early access. So it's like choosing two bad alternatives. But still, I kind of think that it's been overused and like kind of misused. I would have preferred to see it work in a little bit different format. Early access should be sort of more like signing up for a beta, where you have to sort of go a little bit back in the back door, and I think probably one of the reasons why it became a thing is because how Minecraft was released. I mean, he released the game. It said like 50% off during beta. If you buy it now, I mean, it's not complete and everything like that. It was called beta then, not early access, and that was also a game that really worked well with early access. Beta, and also it was highly like even before the game was out, he had 50% off, which I think is one of the main reasons why people were like, oh, this looks cool. This looks like it's going to be a thing. And it's also 50% off even now. So I might as well buy it. Like early access is, sure, sometimes there's like a 10% cut. Sometimes they increase the price slightly when it's released. But you're sort of selling an incomplete game for a full game price, which I think is really weird.
Yeah, no, definitely. And it's just the promise of a full game. So some people, and I myself too, I have spent, AAA dollars on an early access game and not gotten, with the expectation that I would get all the content when it finally came out, but then watched many games, crash and burn. EverQuest next.
Yeah.
Did I say that out loud?
And I mean, that's the saddest part of all, where I mean, in some cases they even get in a lot of money, and then they just sort of the game sort of dies off when they realize, okay, people don't keep buying the game, the hype has died down, and they just stop working on it. That's really, that's sad.
Yeah. So I guess finding out how you ended up at Iron Gate is the next thing to learn about.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, then I was working, like doing my own stuff, and I played this game. I got the code from a friend, and I played it, and I was sort of blown away by it. I thought it's easily one of the best games I played in the past years, and I had a really great experience. Like I think quite a few people have said, like being in kind of I'd still like to say old schoolish gamer, played a lot of games in my years. You sort of are always looking for some of the nostalgic feeling you get from the original games. It's really hard to play a game now and be really happy with it, and which surprises you. And this game, for me, it really ticked a lot of those boxes that I've been missing for a long time. But at the same time, it reminded me in so many ways about this project that I was working on by myself until 2011, and I was like, oh, this is cool. I'm so glad I get to play this game, but oh, damn, I wish I just had finished that game. So on. But anyway, I mean, and I was, of course, it's not identical either. But anyway, I was playing it, and I was like, well, I mean, they're not. Their office isn't so far away from here. I'll just send them an email and see. Like, I'm sure that they are swamped with work right now because they probably didn't expect this to blow up this big. So
about what time? What was the timeline when you contacted them in their development?
I mean, I sent the email probably a few weeks after release, something like that.
Oh, after the early access release last year?
Yeah, after early access release. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm in a lot of ways, I'm kind of late to the party. Like, me and, I mean, several of the others were hired after the early access release. Yeah. So yeah, I sent them an email like pretty soon after their early access release, and it took a while to hear back. First, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, they're not interested, so on. But I sent them some pictures of the project that I made, and like, yeah, this is really similar, and I have some experience. I could probably help you guys out and so on. But yeah, so then it took a while. Like, I mean, they were swamped with stuff after the early access release, and so it took them quite a bit of time to go through, like, because they wanted to hire several people. Like, it was a programmer, they wanted an animator, and a QA, basically. So it took a while to go through all the whole process. But yeah, we had an interview, and after a while, and luckily I got the job along with Luma and Christopher, the animator.
Cool. And how do you split the workload between all of you? I'm guessing you each have your specialties.
Yeah. So, like, like Richard Devoid, he's both the founder and leader. He's also the main programmer, but he also does a little. I mean, he does a little bit of everything. He's really talented in a lot of areas. Especially, like, I'm impressed with the work he does with, like, effects and sound effects, and he has a really eye for getting the presentation side of it done, which I think is the main reason why the art style works so well. A lot of programmers don't really have, like, they can be really good at programming, but they don't really have the artistic side at all. I also have an artistic side since I worked as only as an artist. I mean, I went into the industry as an artist. So I'm also kind of a multidisciplinary programmer, but yeah. So he does a little bit of everything, but mostly programming, and that's pretty much the same as me. I am the other programmer, and I also do a little bit of everything where I'm needed. So we're the two engineers, you could say, and then we have the rest of the team. Like Robin and Lisa do art, and they also do. I mean, everybody at Irongate does a little bit of everything, you could say.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of hard to say, like, this person does that and this person does that, but yeah, like Eric is a designer. He does, like I said, the dungeons and locations. Henrik, he is like a producer. He also helps out, I think, a lot with like early on, a lot of setting up of assets and stuff in the editor. And Luma is our tester and master of balance, I call him master of responsibility because sadly, like, we do lots of stuff that breaks things, and we ask him, like, can you just test this to see that we didn't break something? So even though it's our fault if we break something, sadly he feels it's his fault if he didn't catch it. So,
yeah, well, that's probably why he engages a lot with the community, especially on the public test branch channel of your Discord, because there's no way one individual can find every little bug or exploit or glitch or whatever. But, having thousands of people testing and him interacting with them, he can kind of tease out information from them.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, most big games, and I mean, even though we're a small team, in so many ways, Valheim is a huge game. There's so many players. There's so many things that can go wrong. Like, a lot of big companies have, like, huge departments of QA, and they outsource it, and they have so many testers and everything. Like, he's one guy, and he's both has the whole QA side. He also keeps track of the localization, translations of everything, and also, like, he's also does a lot of balance testing and helps out with, like, that side of things. And me and Richard are always poking him, like, hey, we fixed something. Can you just test this? So it's not like he can do his work undisturbed. Like, I think he does an amazing job. I'm really impressed. He also has help, of course, from Smithy. He's also, like, he is community manager, but he also does a lot of testing. I think, like, just because that's the type of person he is, he just sits and tries to break things and finds problems and things like that.
Well, yeah, trying to break it is kind of part of the what you expect some of the players might end up doing. So if he can break it, and I don't know if like how much you guys like to talk about the modding community, but yeah, as a server admin with over 130 players, I'm always trying to do stuff for them. And of course, you guys don't have a lot of tools for the server admins. So I do something similar with the modders. There's a couple of modders I work with, and they'll send me a mod and they'll say, okay, try to break it. And oftentimes I do. I'm like, okay, this doesn't work, right? Like with the game. So I kind of understand a little bit what they're trying to do with the basic version of Valheim without mods.
Yeah, I get you. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I did a lot of the like early on. When I was starting here, I did a lot of like when building the game, you sort of need like dev tools to interact with the game, like the dev console and stuff like that. And I improved a lot of those things early on. Like I've added a lot of dev commands that I feel are needed just to be able to play the game. So hopefully that will help you out a little bit. But yeah, we don't. I mean, obviously we don't have official mod support. But I'm really impressed with the modders, what they do. Sadly, like one of the effects of mods, I mean, well known, is that they usually tend to break when there's an update, which leads to, since there's so many people playing with mods, when we release a patch, like so many of the bug reports are actually due to players having mods, which is a real pain for us to figure out, like, is this actually a mod, or is there a bug, or is it a mod that's breaking it?
Yeah, I do my small part to help you folks out. I monitor the public test branch channel quite a bit and give feedback when I find something, but often I answer questions for people in there because they're always saying, I installed the public test branch, but it won't load. I got a black screen or something. And then I just ask the question, have you ever played with mods? And then they say, well, I uninstalled them. And I said, no, you didn't. That's why you need to do a fresh install if you're not using a mod manager that can load a vanilla version. But yeah, and that's like, I think in 4 or 5 cases just in the last week or two, it's fixed their problem. Because like you said, they're running mods. You guys put out a patch and it breaks, so they can't even play the game.
Sadly, I mean, you sort of wish that. I mean, since this is probably a standard practice in a lot of games that don't have mod support. Like I know Beat Saber, for example, I play sometimes, and it always breaks all the mods when they release a patch. So I'm kind of surprised that the mod managers don't automatically sort of keep track of the version number and either just like disable mods as soon as there's an update or give you a disclaimer or something like that. So that, I mean, I think it would help a lot of players and it would help us a lot.
Yeah. I see so many people asking questions and you guys have to deal with it. And a lot of that is just problems with mod interactivity. Well, so I obviously you guys and Richard, he has a vision for a game and it's in early access and 1.0 release is down the line, and it seems like that vision is mostly for the sort of single player version of the game. And I'm sure like the 8 million people who bought the game, most of those bought it and played single player, and maybe some small percentage of them found online communities or played with friends. So how much do you think that you might consider multiplayer from what your time with them so far at Iron Gate? Will the multiplayer experience be part of development leading up to 1.0, or you think maybe that more of that might come after 1.0?
I mean, in so many ways, Valheim, I would say, is mainly a co-op survival game.
Yeah.
But at the same time, which I think is really cool, I mean, it's also made to be able to play single player. So everything we do, like sometimes there's really great ideas and ways to do things, which like this would improve the multiplayer part of the game. But we don't want to include parts that won't work in single player. Like we want it to be both. Like we want it to be both a great multiplayer game, but also a great single player game. So the player can choose how they want to play. So it is sometimes a little bit difficult to make those choices. But like, did you have any specific thoughts? Like, what do you mean in multiplayer? Like, which parts did you thinking of improving? Or
well, so playing for me, I played Minecraft a lot, and I played 7 Days to Die a lot. And following those 2 games from very, very early on, it's really what made me decide to jump on Valheim and say, okay, if I'm ever going to become a content creator for YouTube using my film knowledge, this should be the game, because I saw the early, seeds of Minecraft and 7 Days to Die in Valheim, where there's a really good concept for a game there with a little bit of content and more content to come. But those two games, they have basically made it so that like Minecraft is almost unrecognizable in certain forms, right? Because of the tools that they provide the community with to go in and mod that game. You can jump into servers that are completely different from the vanilla Minecraft experience. And when I look at 7 Days to Die, for me, that was a big game because I was with them from the very beginning when their terrain, like 7, 8, 9 years ago, when their terrain was blocky like Minecraft before they switched it. And over the years, they've now provided server admins with so many tools to create this flourishing server community. So, you play a game, any game you play solo or with a couple of friends, and maybe your friends lose interest or you lose interest. And then you look for a multiplayer community to revive the game because of the multiplayer experience. It doesn't even have to be a lot of people, 10, 15, 20 other players who are on regularly can create a really great experience. And Valheim it's sort of missing those tools for server admins to create that long-lasting game experience once people are done with the solo experience.
Yeah, I see what you mean. I think it's really hard for us in that regard because whatever we do, since there's quite a few players, like whatever we do, people will be like, some people will be happy, some people will be really angry. Like, why are you spending time on the Steam Deck? Like, you should be making Mistlands or something like that. Like, in reality, the Steam Deck part of it wasn't really a huge deal. Like, and if we work only on, say, the next biome, then people will be angry. Like, why aren't you fixing these things? Why aren't you making multiplayer things?
Oh yeah, the more popular you are, the more people you have to give you their different opinions, and they're all, some people are going to be super happy, and then other people are not going to be happy with the decision.
Yeah, exactly. And like, and that, I guess that's one of the downsides of being early access. Like, I could definitely see, how should you say, like, if you try to listen to the critics there for a moment and just think like, okay, some people are like, oh, dead game and all that, and you're playing an early access game. What do you expect? But in some ways, yes, if the game had full, if it was complete and if it had like full mod support and everything from day one, or like say within a few weeks or months before like the hype sort of went down, sure, it would definitely have had a potential to grow even more. Since like compared to the Minecraft days, like if you compare it to Minecraft took, you have to remember, it took several years before they had any type of like official mods.
Oh
support.
Yeah, no. I definitely don't want you to think that I in my mind I was thinking that, hey, why doesn't Valheim have this already? No, it's so early access. I was just curious if the sort of multiplayer experience was something that it was being considered between now and 1.0, or if it's maybe something that you think might come more after 1.0, because right, like you've got to get everything into the game that you want for the vision of the game, and once that's released, then maybe you start adding other things as you see fit the game or fit what the community is asking for.
Yeah, sure. During, like, if you say Minecraft days, people were in a way much more patient because there weren't so many games being released at this, like compared to now, where you have every genre has so many games that are popular and you have so many players. So if you're a little bit too slow, people will, not even if you're a little bit too slow, people expect like every game to be a live service where they're getting like new patches every month or every bi-weekly patches, everything new all the time.
They're spoiled by AAA games that are releasing and doing tons of updates with a huge team and
exactly. So, well, to answer your original question there a little bit more, it is a little bit of a balance. Like, yes, we want to focus mainly on finishing like the parts that really feel missing, like mainly the biomes. That is, you could always say that is the main focus. But we definitely do. I mean, we definitely can do, and probably will do, other things at the same time. I can't say for sure which parts of it is, but for example, I mean, things like we're talking about, for example, mod support or things like achievements, things that are important, but some way secondary to the main like game being complete, will probably have more of a backseat until the other things are done. Like, I mean, we could definitely add some tools for you to do things a little bit differently, like help out the multiplayer experience. Like, personally, I'd love to work more on the replayability and like and like some different modes. Like, for example, we had the unofficial no map mode, which turned out to be very popular, and things like that. Like, smaller changes are more likely to happen, I think, during before 1.0, if you say that. But I think other things probably will be more like at or after 1.0.
Okay, that was the first half of the interview with Jonathan over at Iron Gate. He was such a great guest to speak with. He had so much to share with us. So stay tuned for the second half of this interview, which should come out within the next week. Thank you for listening to Podheim, Jiroc's Valheim podcast. We have new episodes coming out every Friday, and if you enjoyed listening, please support us by subscribing to the podcast on your favorite platform and leave us a rating and a review to help more Vikings find us. We also have a Patreon with perks for supporters like behind-the-scenes discussions, exclusive content, and segments that are edited out of the main podcast. And if you'd like to join our friendly Discord community, we have more than 1,000 people there. Just go to discord.gg/Jiroc the Viking. If you'd like to play on my Valheim servers, just go to my website at jiroctheviking.com and submit an application. I'd like to give a huge shout out to my supporters, some of them on Patreon, the YouTube membership, and the ones who help boost our Discord server. Your support means the world to me and inspires me to make more videos, as well as run a community Discord and multiple Valheim gaming servers. If you enjoy my videos and would like to support my work, join our friendly Discord community and Valheim servers. Links can be found in the description below. Skål!